no!
Welcome to another episode of the Active Center, constructed by David Seppi.
Welcome.
Hello.
So today we're cutting through some of the political noise around the economy.
A lot of noise there.
Yeah, exactly. Specifically, this idea you hear a lot that if we just confiscated all the wealth of U.S. billionaires, we could solve our national financial problems.
Right. It sounds pretty simple on the surface.
It does. But what happens when you actually just run the math?
And that's our mission today. We're just going to put two colossal figures side by side for you.
Okay.
On one hand, the total wealth of every single U.S. billionaire, and on the other, the cost to run the entire federal government for just 1 year.
A one-time pile of assets versus a recurring permanent expense.
Exactly. Let's see how they stack up.
All right, so let's dig in. Let's start with that government spending. The massive recurring bill.
Sure.
For fiscal year 2025, the U.S. Treasury projects the annual cost to be $7.01 trillion.
$7 trillion. It's almost hard to conceptualize.
It really is. And that's everything, right? We're talking mandatory spending like Social Security, Medicare.
Defense, of course.
And the big one that's growing, just the interest payments on the debt we already have. That bill comes due every single year.
And it's not going down.
No. Okay, so that's one side of the ledger. What's the counter figure?
So the counter figure,
right?
As of late 2025, the total combined wealth of all U.S. billionaires is estimated at about $7.8 trillion.
7.8.
Yeah. And here's the really important detail. You have to understand the nature of that wealth.
Right.
It's not $7.8 trillion in cash sitting in a vault somewhere. It's overwhelmingly non-liquid.
Meaning it's tied up in things like
corporate stocks, equity in the businesses they founded, real estate, things you can't just spend tomorrow.
Okay, so wait, hold on. Let me stop you there. Because the numbers are $7.8 trillion in wealth versus $7.01 trillion in annual spending. The wealth number is bigger.
It is.
So why isn't this the silver bullet? Why do so many analysts say this idea is a non-starter if, on paper, the money is there?
This is where it gets really, really interesting. You have to visualize what would actually have to happen.
A hypothetical liquidation.
A one-time hypothetical seizure and sale of everything. So if you could successfully do that, take that entire $7.8 trillion pool.
Right.
That cash would be enough to fund the entire federal government's operations for approximately 13.4 months.
13 months.
A little over 1 year.
So you're saying this massive, historic, one-time seizure of all that private wealth buys us just over 1 year of solvency.
That's what the math shows. That's the payoff.
Wow. That really puts the scale of government spending into a different perspective.
It clarifies the core structural issue, doesn't it? It's like using your entire life savings to pay 1 year's rent.
Right. You've solved the problem for today.
But next year, the rent is still due, and now your savings account is empty. The fundamental expense hasn't changed.
So what does this really mean then? The math seems brutally clear. You're applying a finite resource,
A one-time pot of gold.
to an infinite compounding problem. Once that wealth is spent after those 13 months, the government is right back where it started.
Right back to facing the same deficits, but now that pool of wealth is gone, you can only play that card once.
If we connect this to the bigger picture for everyone listening.
Well, the sheer scale of the annual expense is just so immense. It forces you to ask whether the core challenge for the U.S. budget is fundamentally a spending problem, something that requires structural solutions rather than just a revenue problem you can fix with a one-off transfer of wealth.
And that's really the final thought to leave you with. If a one-time injection of nearly $8 trillion only buys about 13 months of stability, what does that imply about the actual scale of spending cuts or, sustained tax increases that would be needed to truly balance the budget, not just for 1 year, but year after year?